In this lesson, we're going to learn how to apply and utilize the formula for the volume of cylinders. First of all, let's talk about volume. It is the amount of space inside a three-dimensional object. And the formula for all prisms is the area of the base of the prism times the height. In our first example, we have a square prism. Our base is a square, so we would calculate the area of the square and then multiply it by the height. In our second example, a cylinder, we can see that the base is a circle, so we would calculate the area of a circle, pi r squared, and then multiply it times the height. In our third example, we can see this is a triangular prism. We would calculate the area of a triangle, base times height divided by 2, and then multiply by its height. So that is how you find the volume of any prism, the area of its base times the height. But we're going to focus only on cylinders. So our formula, big B, means the area of the base, which is pi r squared. That's how you find the area of a circle, times the height of our cylinder. Now let's just recall that radius is the distance from the center of your circle to a point on the circle. So that's the radius. Our diameter would be a point on the circle to another point on the circle passing through the center. So our diameter is half the distance of the radius. So let's do our first example. We're going to calculate using 3.14 for pi, but then we're going to calculate it again simply using the symbol pi. So first of all, let's identify the radius. It is 8 centimeters. Our height is 16 centimeters. Now let's put this into our formula. So the first time we're going to actually use the estimated value of pi, 3.14. We put in our radius and it says we have to square it times 16. Now I'm going to use my calculator, but I am not going to use the pi button on my calculator. I'm going to type in 3.14 and then times 64 times 16. And our volume is 3,215 and 36 hundredths. And this was centimeters cubed. So anytime we're talking about that volume, our unit is cubed. Now we're going to recalculate, but this time we're simply going to use the simple pi and not 3.14. So basically what we're doing is we're multiplying the radius squared times the height, which gives us 1,024 times pi. So be able to calculate it using 3.14 and just simply using the symbol pi. Let's try another example. This time they have given us the diameter of the circle. So the radius is actually 6 and our height is 20. So be careful in what you are given. We're going to plug in 3.14 for pi, 6 for our radius, times the height. So 3.14 times 6 squared times 20. And that gives us about 2,260 and 8/10 inches cubed. Now let's calculate again, but this time we're simply going to multiply the radius squared times the height, and that gives us 720 times pi. Sometimes we are going to be given the volume and the radius and asked to determine the height. So we're going to use our algebra skills. We're going to plug in what we know into our formula and then isolate h in this case because we're trying to find height. We're going to do it first in terms of pi, and then in terms of 3.14. So instead of v, we're going to replace v with 224 pi equals pi, the radius 4 squared times the height. So we're trying to find height. So we're going to have 224 pi. We're going to square the 4, and I'm just going to write it in this order. You can write it in any order because of commutative property. I'm isolating h, so I can simply divide both sides with 16 pi. I can do that with one step because it's the same inverse operation. This was 16 times pi times h. Inverse of multiplication is division. So these cancel. Over here, these pi's cancel. And now I simply divide 224 divided by that 16, and that gives us a height of 14. Now let's do it again, but using this volume, which included the 3.14 when it was calculated. So volume is 703, 36 hundredths is equal to 3.14 times the radius squared times h, and we're isolating h. So I'm going to first have to multiply 3.14 times that 16, and we get a product of 50 and 24 hundredths times h. Now we're simply going to divide each side by 50.24. So 703 and 36 hundredths divided by 50 and 24 hundredths gives me 14, which it should. So this is how you determine the height in terms of pi. And this is when it's already had 3.14 calculated within it. Okay, let's do one more. We have a radius of 7. So our volume is 833 pi equals, so when I have pi included, the pi symbol included as part of the volume, you are simply just going to write the pi on this side as well, not 3.14. So we have 833 times pi equals 49, 7 squared, times pi times h. We're going to divide each side by 49 pi. So we have 833 divided by 49. This gives us a height of 17. We can see that we will get the same answer when we have calculated in 3.14. And 3.14 times 49 equals 153 and 86 hundredths times h. Divide by that coefficient. Isolating h, 2,615 and 62 hundredths divided by 153 and 86 hundredths gives us a height of 17. Okay, this time we're going to find the radius. We're given the volume and we're given the height. So let's plug in. The first go around, we're going to do it in terms of pi. So the volume is 1,458 pi is equal to pi. We don't know the radius, and then it's times 18. I'm just going to rearrange this. I'm going to divide each side by 18 pi to isolate r squared. And 1,458 divided by 18 gives us 81 equals r squared. Now we have to undo the squaring. We take the square root of both sides. and our radius is 9. Now let's try it when we have the 3.14 actually calculated into the volume. We're going to multiply 3.14. Again, I'm not using the pi button on my calculator. I get 56 and 52 hundredths times r squared. Let's divide by that coefficient. And 4,578 and 12 hundredths divided by 56 and 52 hundredths gives me that 81. Take the square root of both sides. And my radius is 9. Let's do one more. Again, we're given the height, we're looking for the radius, and we were given the volume. Divide by 11 pi to isolate r squared. Undo the squaring by taking the square root, and our radius is 11. Now let's do it in terms of 3.14. Our volume is 4,179 and 34 hundredths is equal to 3.14 times our radius squared times 11. We're going to multiply 3.14 times 11. This gives us 34 and 54 hundredths times r squared. Divide by that coefficient. Isolating r squared. Dividing. This gives us that 121. We're going to take the square root of both sides, and our radius is indeed 11. I hope this helps.